not move out to Washington. That's another bigger problem taking place today. These politicians, they get elected, they go off to D.C., and you never see them again. And they live in this bubble, and they forget all about us. So because of that, I'm not going to buy a house in Washington. What I'm going to do is just buy a couch so I can place in my office, so I can sleep there a couple of nights a week while Congress is in session, and the rest of the time, I'll be back here with you. Because that's my first and foremost priority, is serving the Hoosier people. And I can't do that if I'm constantly in Washington. On top of that, I made a couple other pledges. One is that I will never accept their lifetime benefits, their retirement plan, or their health care package. Because it's a shame. Nobody else has an opportunity to work a couple of years and be set for life. And I'm not going to do it. On top of that, I will never vote for a pay raise. That's another problem. These politicians use our money to vote themselves pay raises. So, unfortunately, I'll probably get one because that's what they do every year. But I'm going to donate my pay raise to my local church and to local charities and other local churches. On top of that, I've made another pledge that I will never vote for or request a pork barrel project. That's another problem. These politicians use our dollars to build a fancy building or a bridge to put their name on it. And that's the problem. That's the only thing they can campaign on. They come back home and they tout to you how much money of yours they spent. But instead, what I'm going to do is campaign of how much money of yours I've saved. And once we do this, if we eliminate the lifetime benefits and past term limits, we would get rid of these crooked politicians going to Washington and have good, honest, noble people to go up there to do it for the right reasons. If I could, I'm sorry, I would like to make another clarification. Am I the only candidate up here who has made a declaration of exactly the terms they will serve and when they will come back home? Has any?
Let us do this. I'd like to add 1 minute for each of you for just a moment, because I've heard each of you say that you are against term limits, but I haven't heard anyone say this is what... Thank you. It's okay. Yeah. Even us on this side can speak wrongly at times. What I would like to hear, however, for a little clarification, is what you would plan to do now that will bring term limits into to make it happen. Because right now, all I've heard you say is, yeah, you'd be for it. So let's hear. Mr. Sauter, 1 minute, please, for each of you.
First, I'd like to say I'm really glad I'm not a career politician. And as far as I know, you can't retire after one term. But it will take a constitutional amendment. The state of Washington tried to limit their members of Congress by a state law. And as I understand it, the Supreme Court struck that down and said this is a federal office. You can't pass a state law to limit the terms of a federal official. So it's going to take a constitutional amendment to do that, which will take 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate. The President will have to sign it, and then the 38 states will have to ratify it in order for it to be effective. So it will be a long process, but I'm perfectly willing to introduce the amendment, to fight for its passage, and begin the process of term limits.
Mr. Warren.
Well, first thing we need to do before we do anything about term limits, we need to get brand new people in there. Otherwise, it probably won't get a whole lot of support because they're not going to get up to the job. Now, yes, term limits, absolutely, and I think 4 to 5 year terms in Congress and the representative is a fair time, because you do have to have time to learn and get to know the people and be able to work with them and get some stuff done. You can't go in there for 1 or 2 terms to get anything done. It gives you time to get things and understand the whole system. That way you're able to get out there and get the bill done.
Thank you.
I will not only introduce the amendment, I will fight for it. I'll be loud. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had far too many members of Congress who've just fallen in line in recent years, supported whatever the big spending, big government Republicans in the party might have proposed. And folks, I'll take the same approach fighting against that sort of excess that I will with the term limit amendment. I will propose it and fight for it. Now, I'll say that unilateral declarations of term limits, I'm only going to serve X number of years, could end up hurting us more than helping us. Who's going to stay around long term? It's the career politicians who will control every committee chair, who will control the Speaker of the House, who will dictate the agenda of the House. So I think it's naive to say that I'll unilaterally only serve a couple of terms. We need that amendment to pass, and I agree. We need to send people to Washington who can agree to that amendment. That's the solution. It's in your hands, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, Bob, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce an amendment to our U.S. Constitution passing term limits. It's not hard, but you know what's going to happen? It's not going to pass because the career politicians won't voluntarily give up their power. But you know what it's going to do? It's going to draw the line in the sand. So the American people can know exactly where their representative lies, whether they're a career politician only looking out for themselves or whether they're a true statesman fighting for the people. And that's what I'm going to do. But on top of that, with me setting the example and stepping down after 3 terms, what that's going to do is be the model for the American people to say, hey, that's the kind of leadership that we want. Someone who doesn't care about a career, who doesn't care about the money or the power, but is going to fight on our behalf. And then and only then can we get other true leaders who are conservatives to stand up, to take up the banner and fight to advance our Christian conservative values in Congress. And that's exactly what my leadership is going to do. If I could, I still want to get a clarification if I'm the only candidate who has made a declaration of how many terms they will serve and when they will step down. Thank you.
Mr. Warren, I believe you're up next. Is that correct?
Wow.
I believe that is correct. We're going to shift gears one more time. Iran is on the verge of obtaining nuclear weapons, which will serve to shift the delicate balance of power in the Middle East. What would you do to ease the tension that is building there?
Well, first off, what we've done, the way this has been handled, has been totally wrong. We keep going to the UN and asking them to do stuff for us. Now, in my personal opinion, and I know a lot of people agree, the UN is partisan. It's an American bashing society. That's all it is. If it was done properly, it would be a great deal. It would. It would be spectacular. But it's not. It's run by dictators that would take people and boil, what is it, cash for oil. I mean, it kind of got blowed out of the way on that one, didn't it? Really screwed that one up. And they do that a lot. So first off, we've got to get away from letting the UN do this. And I would have been, if I'd have been up in Washington, my first thing I would have done 2 years ago, I would have put a naval blockade and said, okay, you're stopping now, we're not going any further. Because you cannot allow this. To be able to ease the tension with Iran, that's not going to happen without him being shot. He's not going to allow it. He's just going to keep playing his card whatever way he wants. We have to address it from a standpoint of force and that we're not afraid to use it.
So you are saying that force is the thing that you
well,
need to use?
I'm saying a naval blockade. We already have troops in Iraq. We already have troops in Afghanistan. All we have to do is we have to support the surrounding borders on the other side, and we've got it already cut off. You see, what the problem is that these people are, shall I say, their leader has got no respect for the UN, he has no respect for us. And no matter what we do, we're not going to get his respect and his easing of tensions. It's just not going to happen.
Mr. Young.
These national security issues are the most important issues that a member of Congress ever faces. I spent a decade in the military, enlisted in the Navy out of high school, went to the U.S. Naval Academy, was an intelligence officer with a top secret clearance in the Marine Corps. I know full well that there's certain intelligence that none of us have access to, but I'll try and, with that caveat, answer the question fully. We've tried diplomacy. We need to continue to try diplomacy, but diplomacy is not enough. There are things still on the table that we have not yet done with respect to the Iranians. We can revoke any potential loans to build an oil pipeline from Iran down to India that I know the Iranians certainly want to pursue. We can ensure that any loans that